My name is Lizzie Patrick. I'm a 2L.
My name's Scottie Fralin, and I'm a 2L.
My name is Ashley Phillips. I'm also a 2L.
I didn't always know I wanted to go to law school. In fact, I didn't realize I did until I was a sophomore in college. I actually studied abroad in a little town in Switzerland called Riva San Vitale. And it was the spring of 2015, so it was at the height of the European refugee crisis. I became really curious about immigration, and when I came back to the United States, I wanted to learn more about the legal mechanics with immigration law here. The curiosity with immigration law brought me here, but that has expanded so much since coming here. I'm interested in so many different things now.
I majored in English, and so reading, writing, analysis, that was always, that's what I did, what I have always done. So I wanted to take that skill set and further my education. So I feel like law school seemed like a natural next step for me.
I was totally interested in contract law and I got here and it was such a different experience. I was maybe I'm not so sure about what I think I like. There are things that I just was that's so interesting, and I find so empowering to know the mechanics of how the world works and all of these things, and to have the tools to be able to impact those kinds of changes is really such a privilege and an opportunity.
I felt like this was the route for me because it would push me to my fullest potential, and I think, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think that's something common to a lot of law students.
My best friend is the executive editor of Pillar, and we were talking, and both of us had convinced ourselves that we had ran unopposed. I told her, I was there's just no way. There's no way no one, I couldn't have gotten this, I just must have ran unopposed, and she had said the same thing to me. And I think, as women, we often, subject ourselves to that kind of thinking where, you just, good things happen to us, we don't, go do good things and, earn things. And so it's been a really big learning experience.
That should just be true for anybody.
Right.
It shouldn't even have to be a thought oh, I'm a woman, I'm running for this, am I unopposed, am I good enough to do this? And I mean, we're all our own biggest critics, right? And so I just think it should be true for anybody to be able to go do the types of things and take on certain positions that the women at the school, including ourselves, are doing right now. So.
Right. I had to look in a mirror before my interview because I knew the first question was going to be why are you running for EIC? And I just had to look in the mirror, and it was so hard, and I just was because I'm the most qualified, because I would be the best. And I felt so odd telling myself that, but then when I sat there that day I was because I'm the best candidate.
I agree. I mean, I realized at one point, just with everything you said, not being afraid to be our own biggest advocate, especially in going for a position like this or just really any leadership role, that there's no shame in wanting that for ourselves.
How people perceive us as leaders is one thing, and how we conduct ourselves is another. And I think as long as, just as anybody should, I mean, you can be politely candid and tough when you need to be, and assertive when you need to be, and as long as you're doing your job in good faith, I mean, we shouldn't be viewed any differently from anybody else who's doing that too.
With all of the female leadership happening all around us all the time, and getting to see role models, not only the EICs that came before us, but also, women like Dean Perdue and doing the amazing things that they do. I just think it's about more representation, not being the exception, but just being, another leader, not a female leader, just, another person who's doing their job, like you said, in good faith. And so that's what I hope for. There's often times where it's oh, how do you feel being the woman who's running XYZ? And I think that makes people feel othered out, as a verb, without even because you're trying to congratulate and celebrate someone, but you're doing it in a way that distinguishes them from what might be your normals. Someone asked me the benefit of being on a journal besides type changes, which is a great question.
I think on top of time management, which has been a big part of how being on a journal has affected my school life. I mean, it's a whole separate, it's like being in another class, I would say, if not more than that. And it's definitely made me a better writer It makes me more confident in my editing skills, especially going forward into the summer.
I just keep finding that I come across like, oh, I read an article about that, or like, oh, I read a source about that. I know so much about pass-through taxes. I have not taken a single tax class. It's empowering to be able to just pick up conversation with people that you might not otherwise have had something in common with.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think substantive law that is not really in my curriculum or my, course track, at least so far in law school, I have had the exact same experience, like pieces of, articles that I'm working closely with and, just learning something that I'm not getting in a class. So that also kind of contributes to it being sort of like another class. I don't really study IP or anything like that. So I'm reading a ton about technology, IP, cybersecurity, science, data, and I do feel able to have those conversations that I wouldn't otherwise know. Communicating in general with people and being accountable and available as often as I can be. It's a lot of managing of a lot of people, a lot of logistical skills that I don't know if we would get otherwise in law school.
That's really understated about the journals is it is essentially like a year-long group project.
Yeah.
And you work with your peers and you rely on them in a way that I don't think we do a lot in class. And that's something, if you're going to go to a firm, public interest or whatever, you're going to be working with people and you're going to have people rely on you and, you're going to be accountable to other people. And so I think it's just not only is it a community of friends, but it's also a community of colleagues.
We're following in the footsteps of 3 female editor-in-chiefs of each of our journals, so this is not the first year that this has happened.
The school has been very receptive towards women taking on leadership roles, and so it'd be really great to just see that continue.
We have big shoes to fill, and we're very capable of doing that.
All these women who are super outgoing and pretty fearless are about to enter the legal profession.